Once again, a very warm welcome, and we are delighted to have this overwhelming response from the audience. It just reiterates the need for sustainable development, sustainability in our lives today, especially amid the COVID challenges. When human activities, came to a standstill due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we all witnessed a surge in biodiversity movement, better environment conditions, which made us once again realize that human activities have caused various adverse impacts on the environment. These impacts, however, are there because of our development, but humans cannot cease to exist. Hence, we need to have a development, but there is an equal need to have a sustainable way forward. Considering these things in mind, we have kept this webinar today, which talks about sustainability reporting and we are focusing particularly on GRI standards. I have with me here my colleague Mr. Sudeep Chandan as well, who would be taking this webinar along with me. We will be distributing the slides within ourselves. Moving forward, before we get into the agenda, I would like to briefly introduce you to our organization, KBS Certification Services Private Limited. Most of you are already aware of this organization as you've been associated with us in one way or the other. But I would still like to bring this back to your knowledge that we were founded in 2005 as a service-based organization. And we are working in diverse areas in the last 15 years in management system certification, in climate change services, sustainability reporting and assurance, product certification, including CE marking, and training and inspection, third-party inspection as well. In the climate change field, we have been working on projects including CDM, BCS, Gold Standard, Social Carbon, ISO 14064, and we have validated and verified more than 400 project activities or program of activities under the schemes, which are spread across the globe from Asia to Africa and Latin America. In management systems, we have various certifications to which we are accredited. From the UK, we have ISO 9001, which is for quality, 14001 for environment, health and safety 45001. We have food safety management system, which is 22000. We have energy management systems, third-party inspections, and various other allied services. In addition to this certification and auditing, we are also into training and capacity building. And this webinar is a part of our effort to raise awareness and bring a little bit of understanding on the sustainability reporting so far. Even understanding the emerging urgent requirements of medical devices and PPEs for fighting COVID-19, KBS has been also providing the product certification services, including CE marking, FDA registration for various products, including for small businesses and budding companies in India as well. We are also accredited to UNFCCC, to Gold Standard and BCS, Accountability Standard of UK, and we have joint accreditation for Australia and New Zealand, JAS ANZ. We are accredited by Emirates International, by CQI IRC as a training partner, and so forth. For more details, you can always visit our website. But here we would like to state, because of all these experience of last 15 years, we have a strong team of auditors working on sustainability and climate change related services. We are a licensed organization, as I said, from Accountability UK for assurance of sustainability reporting. We are accredited by UNFCCC, by Bureau of Energy. We are approved as energy service company, and we have more than 5,000 customers across the globe. Coming back to the agenda that we are here to talk about, we would like to discuss briefly about sustainability. Why should one report? What are the various drivers? The evolution of sustainability reporting over a period of time. Then we'll come back to the GRI standard, which my colleague Sudeep will be taking. And then we would come back to sustainability assurance services that is available in the market. Now, as I was saying, from the human activities, there are a lot of environmental impacts, and we have seen when these impacts were not there during the time of COVID-19 pandemic, when a lot of activities, travels, industries had to shut down. We could see the impact that had on the environment because of the previous activities, and suddenly you could see the water getting clear, the air getting clear, and a lot of other positive outcomes were available, which does reconfirm to us that human activities does impact the environment, and hence it is equally our responsibility to ensure that we can minimize those impacts while we are doing our development at the same time. This is what exactly what sustainability is all about. In the United Nations World Commission on Environment Development, in 1987, in the Brundtland Commission report, they actually defined sustainable development as meeting the needs of present without compromising the needs for future generation. Now, this was the definition for sustainable development. Now, sometimes one asks such question as, what is the difference between sustainable development and sustainability? So I would say sustainability is more of a long-term goal, whereas sustainable development are the pathways towards reaching the long-term goal of sustainability. There are three basic spheres of sustainability which we have. We are talking about here environment, economic, and social parameters. Where the balance among these three spheres is reached, that is where the sustainability can be achieved. So in terms of economic, we are talking about maximizing the profits, minimizing the costs to the company, maximizing the savings, having maximum economic growth, but at the same time maintaining the balance of environment and social aspects. So equally trying to improve the standard of living, the education within the community that surrounds us, also looking at the efficient use of natural resources, management of the environment, and preventing pollution as much as possible. So where the three balances are most suitably reached is where the sustainability can be achieved by any organization, by a country, and so forth. Now, that was the more of a conceptual framework. But when we talk about realizing those concepts onto the ground activities, realities, we have sustainable development goals with us. Most of you might already be aware we had Millennium Development Goals earlier, which are now replaced in 2015 by Sustainable Development Goals, adopted by around 162 countries and supported by 40 UN organizations and funds. These 17 goals are designed in a way so that no one is left behind, and we are developing ourselves in a way that we achieve a better future and more sustainable future for all. All these goals are very interconnected. And if we look at these goals, I would particularly like to bring your attention to the goal number 17, which is the partnerships for the goals, which actually pans across all of the other sustainable development goals. This one basically talks about global partnerships and cooperation, including the international community response towards COVID-19, for example, which is currently prevailing. Achieving these goals is at a country level, which is for all the 162 countries who have adopted these. They have several indicators and targets which they are reporting every year to the UN, and the aim is to achieve the targets by 2030. Now, this is more at the country level, but when we come to the organization or as an individual, when we look at it, we would like to, when we are trying to adopt the sustainability principles in our lives or in an organization's objectives, we would like to reduce the footprint and deliver more value at the same time. When I'm talking about reducing the footprint, we all know about the carbon footprint that we normally have. So we would like to reduce energy and climate footprint by opting for more energy efficient equipment or energy efficiency measures within our households as an individual level, or within an organizations we can conduct energy audits, which again KBS is heavily involved in. So with these energy efficiency improvement measures within an organization or at an individual level, or in terms of reducing the material and waste consumption or material wastage through our processes, or recycling and reusing the waste, or reducing the water and wastewater that is generated from our facilities in an organization, or even at an individual or a household level. These all are the ways and means by which we can reduce the footprint, and at the same time the organizations aspire for having a better economic performance, and not just the economic performance which is there in the center top end of the figure that we can see, but we also would like to make a balance of the social progress and the safety and health and environment parameters for any organization. So sustainability is not something that we only look at a country level, at a global level, but it is also possible at an organization level and as an individual as well. Like if my daughter comes to me and tells me, because she learns from her educational institution in the school, that one has to reduce the water consumption or the wastage of water because of not using the shower, but instead using a bucket of water. So these are the means which have definitely behavioral issues in terms of making changes in our day-to-day routines. But these are the aspects, small little steps, which can be also taken at an individual level, which can subsequently contribute to the difference within a society towards a more sustainable goals. When we are talking about an organization, we would like to understand why reporting on sustainability makes sense, and it makes actually business sense. It improves your operations for an organization. It strengthens relationships, because when you have your reporting of different parameters, there is a relationship, there is a communication to different stakeholders about the transparency of the organization. That strengthens the relationships and builds trust and credibility from the stakeholders towards the organization's performance. There is a better reputation with socially responsible investors. There is also brand protection and customer loyalty. The employer relationship also improves, because within the sustainability reporting parameters, there, as we will see as we move on in the presentation, we have various environment, social parameters as well, which also looks at the employees within the organization, whether it is the gender balance, whether it is the minimum wage, or whether it is the health and safety of the workers within an organization. So even the employer-employee relationship can be strengthened much better if you are reporting. And it's not just about reporting. When you are reporting periodically from year on year, for an organization, they become socially conscious. They become conscious and aware of their footprints, and there is a need for an organization internally to set targets and goals to keep up the benchmarks as they move on. So they could compare with the industry benchmarks, and they could also look at the performance, their own performance last year, and have improvements year on year. So reporting helps in measuring your performance and hence improving it over years of time. So it helps the organizations, the stakeholders at different levels. Coming back to the drivers, which I just talked about in the previous slide, we can see that there is definitely the business drivers on the right side of the picture that you can see, where we can see that there are competitors, there is a peer pressure. Like in India, we have 500 top companies who are already reporting under the Securities and Exchange Board of India. So when they are reporting in a transparent manner, it is not just a business proposition for them, it also helps them have a competitive edge. Like if as a as a producer, if I'm manufacturing a textile or something in garments, and when I have to export it to a buyer who's located somewhere outside of India, then those buyers have a better competitive edge for those companies from whom they are sourcing, who are more sustainable and environmentally conscious. In same way, we have the stakeholder pressures, which we may have. The stakeholder pressure related to NGOs sometimes. For example, if I take the case of ITC, which produces cigarettes, now they already have a very complicated image for the customers. So when they have sustainability reporting and when they communicate with their customers and the various NGOs and public, where they are telling them about various positive measures that they have taken within their organization, then it shows and improves their picture within the customers' minds or the NGOs or the investors' mind, how the company is more environmentally conscious. Similarly, there could be some compliance-related drivers for sustainability reporting. For example, as I just mentioned, there is a business responsibility reporting (BRR) framework in India, which was introduced for top 500 companies in 2015. In fact, GRI, which is the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI standard is what we will be discussing in detail in the coming slides. This organization, GRI and BSE, together had an MOU in 2016 to basically support these top 500 companies to come up with a sustainability report, which could be based on GRI framework as well. So they had a compliance, mapping of GRI and the BRR framework, so that they could produce their sustainability reports. In fact, it is very clearly mentioned in these type of arrangements that sustainability is no more just an option for an organization. It is more of a priority that they have to come up with. There are different sustainability reporting guidelines which have come up over the years. For example, we have CSR reporting, we have which is the corporate social responsibility. We have BRR, we have CDP, we have balanced scorecard, and so on. We have certain integrated reporting as well, which has been developed over a period of time. And this slide particularly shows how it has progressed from the beginning, where there was simply just environmental reporting, which moved on towards corporate social responsibility, which was more of a philanthropy, where even as a mandatory regulation, you are required to spend, for the bigger organizations who have larger turnovers, to spend 2% of their profits towards corporate social responsibility. But these are not integrated into the business, which is where sustainability comes as a different perspective. When we are talking about just a corporate social responsibility, it could be, for example, just building a school in a community or building a clinic or a hospital in the community, which is also equally important. But when we are looking at, for example, helping the farmers or who are providing us the input for our manufacturing processes, this is like integrating your supply chain and ensuring that there is a smooth functioning and availability of the supply chain, and not just, and that is where sustainability comes. So it's no more a philanthropy, but it makes a business sense for you to invest in something which is strengthening your supply chain linkages. So in similar way, corporate social responsibility moved on towards sustainability, and that is where 1997 GRI was founded. And subsequently, it has progressed towards integrated reporting, where we have, the organizations are now looking at integrating their financial reports along with the sustainability parameters, so that they don't have to report two reports, they don't have to produce two reports, but instead they have one integrated report, including the financial as well as sustainability parameters integrated together and published every year on year. Now we will take you further towards the GRI guidelines, and my colleague Sudeep would be the one who will be taking it further. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We have the chat box here for all of you
Hello.
to put questions. Yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Sudeep here. I know you have gone through. You have heard what is sustainability all about, why it's important, and how can you be more sustainable and incorporate sustainability in your lifestyle. So now I would like to discuss you more on the guidelines and standard, the GRI standard, by which the sustainability report is prepared by different organizations, the corporates across the globe. Before I start, this is the evolution of reporting, how the GRI was founded and how the standard has been evolved throughout the years. That has been shown here. If you see the picture, the GRI was founded in the year 1997. Then in the year 2000, the first guidelines was published by the GRI. Slowly the guideline was modified, and in the year 2002 the second guideline G2 was published by GRI. Again there was some modifications, and the G3 was published in the year 2006. Then came the G3.1 with some modifications in 2011. In 2013 the G4 guidelines were published. So you see, from 2000 to 2013 different guidelines were published with some modifications. But in the year 2016, the entire guideline was restructured, and that's what we call it, the GRI standard now. Actually, the guideline that were published by GRI initially were converted into a standard. Basically, what is standard all about? Before, the guideline was in a single structure. In 2016, it was formulated in a modular form. The guidelines were transferred into a modular structure by the GRI, and that's what we follow today itself. If you see the statistics, about 75% of the largest 250 companies in the world report using the GRI standard. That's what we're talking about right now. Even 63% of the largest 100 companies in 49 countries, they report on sustainability report they prepare using the GRI standard. And if you see the policies, around 130 plus policies in more than 60 countries, they use the GRI framework. It's not that the entire standard is copied, but some part of the standard is copied and we've been used in different policies across the globe. So you see how the important this standard is, and how globally different organizations, different corporates, government policies use this standard in their reporting or their framing their policies. If you see the standard that was published in the year 2016, the GRI standard, the entire standard is divided into two parts. You see, the first part is, you can say, the universal standard, and the second part is the topic specific standard. Now the universal standards are the ones where you see how the reporting should be done, that is disclosed. Again, the informations that the organization need to disclose and how the informations need to be placed in the report, those things are presented in the universal part of the standard. The second part are the topic specific standards. The three pillars, the three spheres that the madam talked to you about some time back. The three pillars: the economic, social, and environment. So how the organization need to report on these three aspects, those things are presented in the second part of the standard, that is we call it as topic specific standard. Now when you report, the most two things are important. The first part is the reporting content, what should be presented in the report, what should not be presented in the report, and if you want to represent it, then how it should be presented, and if not, then why it should be omitted, and what are the guidelines for that. Those things are the reporting content, and second thing is the reporting quality. The two things matters for any organization when preparing the report by internally or by any consultant from outside. Two things has to be considered, that is the reporting content and the reporting quality, and those things are called as the reporting principles as per GRI standard. Now, when you call the first thing is the stakeholder inclusiveness. The stakeholders, as mentioned earlier in previous slides, are the most important for any organization to consider. So when you prepare the report, you have to keep in mind whether the stakeholders' consent has been taken or not, whether the report is prepared keeping in mind the stakeholders, their prospects. It's not only the organization preparing the report keeping their own intention or motives or purposes in mind, and not the stakeholders. The stakeholders can be your employees, can be your NGOs outside, can be your community, can be your investors, anyone who are important to organizations. So when the report is prepared, it has to be kept in mind that the report is prepared keeping in mind the stakeholders' consent. Second thing is the sustainability context. When the report is prepared, it's not that only you are limiting to your own organization. When the report is prepared, you consider the other organization as well. You benchmark the report. You benchmark the data. Like suppose if I consider, the report is prepared for a textile company or textile industry, suppose. Now textile industry, other textile industries data or the information also needs to be benchmarked when you prepare your own report. It's not that only preparing the report using your own information or the limiting your report only in your organization. So broader prospects need to be considered while preparing the report. The third thing is the materiality. Materiality is the important aspects that need to be considered while preparing the report. This materiality can differ from organization to organization. For example, like suppose an organization or a company in northern part of the India or in southern part of India, maybe some aspects are important to the company who are residing in northern part of the country, or maybe not applicable to the company who is residing in the southern part. For example, if I take water as a materiality, water is an important aspect that has to be considered while reporting. This means how much water is consumed, what are the losses, what are the measures taken to save the water. It's a material topic. It's an important topic for any organization. But maybe when you consider the materiality, how much important, maybe in Rajasthan in India, for example, where there is scarcity of water, for them this water materiality is more important. They will put it on the top list. Maybe not so important for the southern part of the country. So materiality differs from organization to organization, and they place their own materiality. They have to analyze their own materiality topics, identify the topics, and present in the report as per their The fourth part is the completeness. When you prepare the report, the entire topics should be considered. It's not that you're covering some part of the material topics and leaving the other material topics which are maybe important to the stakeholders and maybe not important to you, and you are leaving it. It's not that. You have to consider the stakeholders' commitment. You have to incorporate them in the report. The report should be complete enough. It should cover your prospects, the organization's prospect, as well as the prospect of the stakeholders. So you should cover all the material topics and try to minimize or try to omit as less as the material topics possible. The reporting quality, as far as considered, first point is the accuracy. When you prepare the report, you put the data, informations. You collect data, information from different factories or at different locations that your organization has. And then you prepare the report. You put the data in the report. The data should be accurate enough. The information that you are sharing in the report should be accurate enough such that when the stakeholders, the stakeholder maybe employees, suppose, or maybe the investors, when they go through the report, the sustainability report, the data should look authentic enough. It's not that you are presenting fake data and which is not relevant in the report. Second point is the balance. It should not, when you prepare the report, you should keep in mind that only not the positive points should be highlighted in the report. You can also highlight the negative ones, or the ones which you are thinking or the organization is thinking about going on in the future course of time. It's not that only the positive aspects you are reflecting in the report to give a better look of the organization and hiding the negative ones. So you have to keep the balance of the positive as well as negative aspects while you prepare the report and present to your stakeholders. The clarity point is that the report should be very easy enough and should be clear enough that anyone who reads it clearly understands what the organization wants to reveal to the stakeholders. When they read the report, it's very simple for them to understand. Maybe it's information you share or the data you share, all those things should be very clear enough, and clarity should be maintained when you prepare the report as per GRI guidelines or the standard. Comparativity, again, same thing. You need to benchmark your data or the information you share. It's not that you are preparing the report and limiting your the information to only your own organization. You have to compare them like to other organizations of your same level of different type organizations, how they are doing, what they are doing, and compare to them what is your standpoint and how you stand in globally, say, or in the market where your organization stand. If you compare to similar type of organization, for example, cement industry, you have, for example, you are running a cement industry, and your report should reflect the other cement industries, how they are behaving or how they are going forward, and how you are handling your business in comparison to the other your competitors or the other same type of businesses. The reliability is that the report should contain again the same aspect like the accuracy I told you about, the clarity. It should be reliable enough. The data that you present or the information that you share is read by all the stakeholders. So they should be, when they read the report, they should get a picture that the report is giving you reliable data, reliable information, and it's not a fake sort of thing that is presented in the report by any organization. Timeliness. Now suppose if I present a report or publish a report considering 3 years back data, and that report is given to the stakeholders. Now the data is 3 years back, so it's not relevant to the stakeholders when they go through the report. So timeliness should be maintained, that when the report is published, it should be in a timely manner. If suppose last financial year report is published, then it should not take too long. It should be published and should be presented to the stakeholders on time, such that when they can go through the report, they get the fair idea of the organization, all about where the organization is right now heading to, or where it is now. What is the basic scenario right now in the organization, and they can take informed decisions. Like, for example, if the employee comes to know where the organization is heading to, they can take the decision whether to stay in the organization or not to stay in the organization, or take any informed decisions all about. Now, when I told you about the materiality, that is the most important aspect when you consider the report, and the materiality varies from organization to organization. I'll just show you the one small snapshot. In this materiality matrix, you see 2 things are considered here. The first thing is the importance to the stakeholders, and the second thing is the impact on the business. It's not that only the business is considered and not the stakeholders' concern is considered. So when you prepare the materiality matrix while preparing the report, or first thing that you need to take into consideration is that you need to consider the importance of the stakeholders as well as your business. Both the things need to be considered while preparing the materiality matrix. So if you see the picture here on your screen, you see, like any organization, for example, women's right, they have kept the women's right is a material topic for any organization, for example, and they have kept it on a higher side. It's important to the stakeholders, also equally important for your business. So they have put it on the higher side, or a very high materiality topic. Same way, like you see, like employee well-being, they have kept it here on a moderate side. So may not be the same topics or the same way that it is presented in this particular slide. You have to put it in your report. It varies from the organization to organization and depends how you consider your material topics. The first thing is identification of the material topics. You need to identify your material topics as per your organization, as per your community, as per your stakeholders, how they are, who they are. You need to identify. You need to sit with your consultants. You need to sit with your top management. You need to sit internally with your team members, and you need to define it. What are material topics for us? And maybe, like, suppose now the time is of COVID-19 going on. So now the material topics will be a different what it was 4 to 5 months back when there was no COVID-19 going on. So even post COVID the topics will differ. Maybe like see in this slide you see the communicable disease. It's an old slide which I have copied, or which I have taken from the standard. So you see the communicable disease is put on the lower side and it's not impacting either the stakeholders nor the businesses. So both of them are, they are not giving any value to the communicable diseases. So it's placed on the lower side of lower importance. It's lower materiality topic, not of high importance. But now see, if you imagine the COVID-19, post-COVID-19 scenario in any organization, this particular communicable disease will be shifted, if not on the higher side, maybe on the moderate side, or very high or high, whatever the organization is about. So this will be replaced or will be switched or will be moved to the other location. From the lower side to the higher side or the very high side. So materiality varies from organization to organization, also varies as per your stakeholders, or maybe the scenario, the global scenario going on, or the local scenario. So that has to be defined accordingly. I'll just give you one example of materiality matrix, how an organization prepares it, just to have an overview, to understand for you how this thing is presented in a report. I have just taken a report of Mahindra and Mahindra. It's an old report, it's not a new report basically. So you see Mahindra and Mahindra's report is 2017-18 sustainability report. In this report, see how beautifully they have presented the materiality matrix in their report. You see the automotive division might be for them. The automotive division, they have put the stakeholders and the business, both the aspects they have considered while preparing the materiality topics. Now see, if you see here, the parameters of high importance and the parameters of low importance, they have categorized it into two different levels, the of high importance level and the low importance level. And if you see the three pillars or the three aspects that we are talking about on sustainability, that is the business, the environment and the social, all three are considered here, but the material topics that has been placed accordingly as some are of high importance, some are of low importance, some are of moderate importance. So in that way, see how they have presented here. I'll show you. For example, if you see here the fuel efficiency, if you consider the high importance topic, material topic, you see the fuel efficiency. Now you see how they have presented it here, the Mahindra and Mahindra. Number 3, they have put it in the red zone. It is the highest importance. Similarly, if you see in the environment section, like water and energy, for example, or the recyclable waste, all these are of high importance for the organization, for the Mahindra and Mahindra. So they have placed it, all these topics, material topics here. Number 9 is here, 21, all this. And the social aspects, similarly, they have placed it accordingly in the material matrix. Similarly, the of low importance topics are also presented here in the matrix accordingly. So this is one just example I wanted you to see how the company Mahindra had presented the matrix in their report. These are the disclosures that the company had presented here. See, if you see that the GRI standard, initially what I showed you, the first part and the second part. The first part was the universal part, second part was the material topic wise that had been disclosed. So these are the disclosures that the organization had disclosed are nothing but the informations on different topics that the organization had shared in their report. So if you see the 102 part where the organization tells you about the name of the organization, activities, location of the headquarters, and so on and so forth. Similarly, if you come down here, 201 you see here, the 201 is the direct economic part. This means the economic aspect has been considered and placed in the report. And similarly, the 302 you see the environmental part, which also considers the energy, the water, the effluent, the carbon emissions, all these things has been considered here. And as well as the last part you see here, the 401 you see the social part where the employees and the safety aspects, health aspects has been considered and presented in the report. Coming back, if you see here, so those things were the material topics and how the Mahindra & Mahindra company had presented the same topics in the report when they published in the year 2017-18. Now coming back, see the key performance indicators. Indicators are the informations or the data you see by which you can understand where the company stands, where the organization stands, when they reveal the data, actual data. Like suppose if I talk about the economic aspects, the company turnover. When they reveal the turnover, the profits that they had, the quantity of products they sold, all these aspects, all these informations or the data when they share in the report, then the stakeholders when they read the report, when they read the report, they come to know where the how and where the organization is standing right now. Similarly, the social part, social also you see the different data is shared. Similarly, the environmental part, the data is shared and presented in the report, and when the stakeholders reads it, they come to know the actual picture. This is just an example to show you the key performance indicators like economic indicators and how actual data, like see this slide, you see 15, 16, 17, 18, 16, 17, all these different financial years, the data is presented on different performance indicators. This varies from organization to organization. The claims are the most important point considered. I mean, when you prepare the report, the GRI gives you free hand to choose whether you want to use the entire standard while preparing the report or some part of it. Now, when you prepare the entire report using the GRI standard, you can claim it that the report is prepared using the GRI standard or the GRI standard report, GRI standard sustainability report, you can say. But if you have considered only the some part of it, for example, if you only consider the environmental part or the environmental disclosures or the format of the environmental part that is designed in the standard, then you are only putting the reference claim. You cannot say that the report that you have prepared is prepared using the GRI standard. You can only say the report is prepared but using the GRI reference standard, reference claim. The other point is the in accordance. I mean, either like suppose you are a beginner and you want to publish the report, this is the first year that you are going for the reporting. So what happens, you are going for the core option, not the comprehensive. In the core option you are just disclosing the minimum information as possible, but when you are going for the comprehensive, at that time you are going for the extensive information. So it depends on you how you want to choose. But for the beginners, you have to start with the core option where you limit the data or the information that you want to reveal to your stakeholders, but accordingly after 2 to 3 years or few years after, you go for comprehensive where you reveal more data and more informations to your stakeholders. Now the latter part, the sustainability assurance part will be handled again by the madam, so I'm just handling.
Thank you, Sudeep. That was quite a detailed presentation on the GRI standard. We have in our audience actually a mix of the experience on the sustainability parameters. We have some in the beginning, some are experts, and therefore this presentation has been kept as bare minimum information so that when you are through with this 1 hour with us, you would understand why sustainability reporting is important, what is the availability as per the GRI guidelines, which is one of the most taken up by most of the organizations. And coming back to the point which Sudeep rightly mentioned, that this GRI standard, see, there is no it's all a voluntary reporting. So an organization is given a free will to choose how much they want to report, how frequently they want to report. Sometimes some organizations, for example, may choose to report once in 2 years. Some may choose to report once in 3 years. Some may choose to report every year. So it again depends on how is your organization's journey and how long, how important or how critical are the various issues related to sustainability to the business. So on the same lines, when an organization is producing a sustainability report, there is also an opportunity to have the report assured. Having a sustainability report assured by a third party actually provides greater credibility and confidence on the reported parameters to the stakeholders who are the reasons, who are the drivers for which the sustainability reporting in the first place actually started. In fact, as I initially also mentioned, KBS is certified as an accreditation under accountability for sustainability assurance, and we can also provide that kind of service to any organization who's already reporting but not taking the assurance services. So as an organization, now having all of this input, where does it lead you to? What is the next step that you should look up to? And that's where we think that if you haven't really started in an organization about sustainability, because sometimes the organization is thinking about it, the management has it in their agenda, but they don't really have the priority, the time, sometimes, to start, and they are not aware exactly where they should really start. So we believe that first of all, you need top management commitment when it comes to preparing an organization for sustainability reporting. Without top management commitment, those things do not get into a formal closure. We also believe after this, you need to have training and awareness needs which need to be assessed within an organization, like how much of the department heads, the team members are already aware, whether they need an awareness program, whether they need a training program. Again, this is where KBS's role could come into play if any of your organizations are interested in taking sustainability reporting seriously in the coming times. The training and awareness programs could be conducted from our side as well. Then it's about discussing with your team members or department heads and planning the roadmap in terms of the defining boundaries of the report, defining materialities. Sudeep already mentioned about the importance of materiality concept, and that is something which an organization has to report, whether it is the core or the comprehensive. So even within core, when you are just starting with a sustainability reporting, one needs to have materiality very well defined. So you need to have your own roadmap internally. Once there is adequate training and awareness, then these steps become very easier to be taken up within an organization. Subsequently, you start developing the sustainability report by collecting, compiling your internal data from various departments. You can consult an expert sometimes for report writing if it is required. And then is the critical decision of deciding whether you would want to take assurance services or not. Because we also see that a lot of reports are published, but they are not taking the assurance services. So that option is always available, and the management can take the final decision on that. And if required, then an assurance service contractor can be contracted. And finally, you publish a sustainability report. And the ideal way of taking it forward would be where this sustainability report is published periodically, as one of the principles was about the timeliness of the report. So that principle is very important. When you are publishing a report, the stakeholders would expect you to publish it every year in a continuous manner periodically, so that they can relate to your performance over a period of time. That was all from our side, and I would like to keep the last 5 minutes specially for taking any of the questions, or if anyone would like to say anything. I would request you to please raise your hand in the chat box that you can see there, and then I can unmute you and you can speak to us in the audience there. I can see one hand already raised, Mr. Arun Walia. Would you like to say something, Mr. Walia? I would like to unmute you. Oh, you're self-muted. Mr. Walia, if you would like to say something, you could even write in the chat box. I am trying to unmute you, but you are self-muted, so if there is anything else from the participants, we would like to hear from you. We also have with us Mr. Manvinder Singh from Max Hospital. So would you like to say something, give us some feedback? Anyone else? Maybe I haven't blocked anyone. You try and write something there. Oh, it's not coming yet. Okay, I can't see if any of you have messaged something. There seems to be some problem here. Just a minute. Okay, I can see now there are a lot of questions here. Yes, I'm on. Now I can see all that. I'm so sorry. I was looking at the chat box where I couldn't see your questions. Okay, so Mr. Nilanjan has asked, can you please send this presentation along with sample report format of this to my mail ID? Yes, we can do that. We will surely do that. And is there anything else from? Okay, we can send it to all in a PDF form. We can do that. We'll send it to all the participants who are here. And we'll also send you probably Mahindra and Mahindra or one another sustainability report as a format for you to look at. When you're saying who's the accreditation body, Mr. Anand, I am just trying to understand. See, we are providing for the assurance services, assurance to the GRI sustainability report. And for that, we are accredited by Accountability International, which is, accountability is the standard which accredits for us for third-party assurance to the reports. It could be the GHG reports, it could be climate change related reports, it could be sustainability reports. So different kinds of reports, we have the accreditation with us to certify as a third party assurance. I hope I have answered your question. So Mr. Anand is asking the typical objectives. Are you talking about the objectives of a sustainability report? Okay, objectives of the system, you mean? Typical objectives of the system. I believe what you're trying to ask is the objectives when you're publishing a sustainability report. That is really very organization specific, and it depends on the kind of drivers that you have. For example, sometimes an organization which has a severe impact on biodiversity. So for example, some of the international NGOs which are looking after biodiversity may be looking at your organization more critically because you have biodiversity related issues. So your objectives could be to address those concerns. So the objectives really vary from system to system. Deep Jyoti has a question. She's asking, the fee applicable at GRI while publishing under the standard? No, there is no fees, and there is no annual timeline as well, Deep Jyoti, because as I said, it's a voluntary reporting, and the organization is given a free will to whether you would like to report it annually, or if you for some a period of years don't want to publish. So I have seen even some of those organizations who have published once, then they have not published for 2 years, then they have published again, and then from then on they have taken it annually. Some do it annually from the beginning. Some take it only core core parameters which they want to report initially, so they have a smaller section of sustainability report. Some may start from comprehensive from the beginning itself. So it again depends from organization to organization. Archana has a question: which team actually should take the responsibility of this reporting? That's a very good question, Archana. Actually, it's a very transdisciplinary team which has to work on it, because while one of the team which could be management could decide on which one takes the responsibility, but each and every team has to be responsible in terms of reporting for the data related to their activities. So all the operations, because it is pertaining to all the economic parameters, the indicators related to social, environmental, every indicators have to be reported. So various teams have to play a role into it. And yeah, Sudeep, do you agree on that? Do you have any input on that? So Deepjyoti, thanks for the clarification. And my second question is that if any organization has certain reporting practices in place like ISO, BRR, CSR, CDP, can they be clubbed under GRI, or is there any provision of incorporating existing reporting? Actually, that's a very good question, Deepjyoti. I in fact also already mentioned during my presentation that already the SEBI, the GRI and BSE, the Bombay Stock Exchange and GRI have an MOU which is signed for the top listed 500 companies who are already doing BRR reporting. So they have provided us another framework through which the companies who are already reporting under BRR can simply shift into the GRI reporting as well. So they don't have to do 2 reports. It can be a combined report. Which could include the BRR and and other standards. Archana has another question: how is it linked with SAE 8000? Are you talking about SA 8000? Because that is social accountability 8000. SAE, I don't know. Okay, yes. So SA 8000 is a different standard, Archana, and it only talks about the social accountability parameters, which is one of the spheres under the GRI. So you still have economic and environmental fields which have to be covered under GRI, which are not really covered under SA 8000. But if an organization is already having an SA 8000 certification, then the social parameters in the GRI report will be easier to adhere to and report. So it becomes easier for an organization to take up SA 8000 when So it's wonderful to have these questions from everyone, and I'm glad that there are more of these interactions happening. For any further questions and clarifications, please feel free to write to us, to Sudeep or to me. And we also have this presentation which will be mailed to you tomorrow itself. And in response to that, if you have any questions, or if you would like more detailed meeting or a discussion, if your organization is already willing to look at the GRI sustainability reporting, or any other services related to climate change or management systems and training and certifications, we would be really happy to help you further. Thank you so much for today's time, and it was a great interaction with all of you. And we look forward to working with you in future. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks.